For day one, we set off on Sunday. No idea where we would get to. We hoped to get to Hay-on-Wye, however we quickly realised that this was an unrealistic goal. As can be seen, we had to push the trailer up some of these steep hills, especially with gravel in the middle of them. It was very hilly this first day, so that drained a lot more power than had been hoped. Fortunately though, the bike pulling the trailer had 2 batteries and the other bike has a very long range, so that was fine. While en route, we checked the map quite often to check we were going the right way towards Hay-on-Wye, as that was our first sort of checkpoint, which we were hoping to make that day, but we didn't. I found while towing the trailer, it was harder to go quickly on the bike because controlling it with all that weight being towed behind me meant it was a lot more difficult. This, I think, really was one of the things that slowed us up a lot during the bike ride and meant we didn't cover as much distance as each day as we had originally hoped. Yes, I should come about half a mile back or so, maybe a bit less, because these both tie wraps snapped holding up these bags on. And the clips broken from it as well. Now look, we're going to bring back some of our other sleeping bags and stuff. They were also lit away. Also dropped out a couple of minutes later, which I've also managed to find. Actually, that's okay, but I'm going to have to work something out for tomorrow. And even after that route, we were stuck with a steep hill, which meant I had to go back down to the bottom of it and actually change gear to get back up. So partly my fault on not changing gear low enough to begin with to get up. Also, it was quite a steep area, that. But overall, I think it did mean that we didn't have to do as much of a busy A road, which was obviously a bonus. On day 3, we went to a nearby mountain recommended to us by the owner of the campsite, which we would be able to get our bikes up, which was really good because that meant not having to leave them at the bottom or walking to the mountain. Otherwise, somebody may have had to stay with them at the bottom or would have had to walk to the mountain, which would have been a lot harder than cycling. On day 4 we headed to the mountain of Penavan. We had decided that Newcourt Farm Campsite made an excellent base for us to travel to the mountains like Tumper yesterday and Penavan today, so we kept our tent set up there and left the trailer there as well, which made it easier to travel to these mountains. So day 5 we began by packing up our stuff from Newcourt Farm Campsite where we've been staying. An excellent campsite, definitely recommend it to any walkers or cyclists, cycling, walking, mountain climbing. So we packed up our stuff and prepared to begin our journey home. After heading off from Newcourt Farm Campsite, we decided to join Route 8 of the National Cycle Network, as this would pretty much take us to Kaisos via quieter roads generally. We stopped off by this bridge, which was a lovely spot. We did have an issue with the pole we had sticking up above the trailer, which had lights on it to warn incoming traffic, as well as hanging backpacks on it for extra space. Because of that extra weight from backpacks hanging on it, it pushed against the side of the trailer, which is missing a bar, and that hit the wheels, and then that caused it to sort of rub a hole through the side of the trailer. We set off once again along Cycle Route 8. We did later move off the cycle routes, however, due to the main road being quicker as it got later, as well as we were looking at Cycle Route 81, but it looked to be quite a steep hill to go up to follow that route around. We did discover that Cycle Route 8 did include some more challenging roads, especially when towing the trailer, but it wasn't too bad. When we arrived in Llanidloes, we decided we had two options. We could either go along Route 81, but look quite hilly, or we could take the main road, which would probably be less hilly, but also a lot busier. We decided we'd take the main road because we didn't want to be hanging around too long, as it was very dark by this point, as well as we didn't have that much power left. However, this was partially because we found a higher road that we thought we would take most of the way there after a portion of the journey, but it turned out that we took a wrong turn once we climbed up and came back down to join another part of the A road.